Throughout art history, we don't see much individuals smiling in paintings. It was actually rare to see someone paint a smile or smirk in portraits. The characteristics of Renaissance art consist of the composition, which is balanced, static forms, and often triangular in shape. The medium consists of wall frescoes, egg tempera on wood panels, and later used oil paints. The sense of depth included linear perspective, atmosphere perspective, fumato, and chiaroscuro. The use of light, it recognized single light source that casts uniform shadows. The subjects, they included religious individuals updated into Renaissance costumes and settings, reference to classical mythology. The human form, it reflected Renaissance humanism, freestanding statues using contrapposto and an emphasis on underlying human anatomy. Portraits represented an ideal. It's easy to mock them. They were the profile pictures of the aristocracy. In a way, they were crucial and tied to mortality. Smiling widely in portraits meant that you were probably destitute, indecent, or mentally ill. This was usually reserved for the lower classes, drunks, and theatrical performers. Sitting for a painted portrait took hours. Posing was strenuous and laborious. If a painter did manage to convince his subject to be portrayed mid-smile, the resulting portrait would be immediately perceived as radical. The smile would become the focus of the picture, rarely what a pained subject might wish for. Smiling in painting was different for men and women in the same culture. For example, it was very unusual to have aristocratic women smiling at all in Renaissance portraits, and the smile is naturally restrained. Treatises of the feminine beauty stated that women should never display more than 6 upper teeth. One Italian painter, Raphael, utilizes a classic realism style, which was typical of the Renaissance art. There is a strong and powerful use of light evident here, which surrounds the subject in a glowing light, further enhancing her beauty and innocence. She smiles sweetly towards the painter and therefore towards the viewer, a pose of evocative love. This was rare in portraits and perceived as radical. The black background sets this off and enhances the model's gentle beauty. There is also an emphasis in humanism, which is highly portrayed in Renaissance art. The woman is nude, exposing her torso and breasts with just a cloth to cover her lower half. The use of line and texture, like her headpiece and the cloth, helps the viewer shift their focus to different places of her body, further emphasizing the human form. This dynamic pose and use of chiaroscuro help highlight her face and body. Another Italian Renaissance artist, Antonello Damasceno, was one of the few to consistently return to the smile in his work. Massena was trained in cutting-edge oil painting techniques developed in the Netherlands, which prioritized a direct observation of nature. Long before Leonardo da Vinci, he introduced the incipient smile into his portrait paintings to indicate the inner lives of his realistically rendered sitters. This painting is done by Antonello Damasceno in the Renaissance era on wood. In the portrait of a young man, Massena creates a dark, simple background and utilizes chiaroscuro to illuminate the man's face. And in that, it emphasizes his smile, which again was very unusual and abnormal. Additionally, the limited use of neutral colors further establishes the focal point, which is the man's face. The smooth texture of the flesh portrays the style of realism, a common characteristic in the Renaissance art. The composition of the painting once again accentuates the man's facial expression, his small but lurid smile. In short, both of these paintings were considered radical due to their facial expressions. Their smile was an uncommon feature in art history for many years. It was not what a patron wanted. Specifically during the Renaissance era, suggested that women should be prim and proper, and thus smiling was restrained and avoided. As for men, they would be perceived as drunk or from the lower class.